It's midnight and you're watching Nightline with me, Liyana Hassanel. The top stories. Health Ministry sounds alarm over cholera case in Selangor. And Perikatan Nasional launches manifesto for Melaka state election. We begin with this story. Two strong earthquakes, the largest in magnitude 6.4, have struck near Bandar Abbas in southern Iran, destroying a number of homes and killing at least one person. The first earthquake, which struck at 3:37 p.m. local time on Sunday, was centered about 64 kilometers northwest of Bandar Abbas, the capital of Hormozgan province, or 278 kilometers north of Dubai. A second earthquake hit the same area about a minute later. Iran's seismological center said the first tremor had a preliminary magnitude of 6.4, while the second one was slightly weaker at 6.3. Both struck about 15 kilometers below the surface, making them very shallow earthquakes. The extent of the damage near the epicenter was not immediately clear, but the ISNA news agency said a number of homes were destroyed in the Bandar Abbas area, and landslides were reported at Gino Mountain. At least one person was killed by a falling electricity pole. The tremor was felt as far away as Dubai, Qatar, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. However, there were no reports of serious damage in the UAE or other neighboring countries. The Health Ministry on Sunday confirmed that a cholera case has been detected in Selangor. Following the development, Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin has advised the public to take precautionary measures and to practice good hygiene. In a brief statement on his Twitter page, the Health Minister advised the public to only drink water which has been filtered or boiled, practice good self-hygiene, and avoid eating raw food or food which has not been properly cooked. He added that more details would be released later. The Selangor Health Department had earlier today issued a cholera alert to all hospitals and district health clinics statewide after it detected a case involving a Malaysian who came down with the infection. The age, gender, and condition of the patient, however, was not divulged in the circular. Cholera is an intestinal disease that typically results from bacterial infection, and in the most severe cases, the rapid loss of large amounts of fluids can lead to death within hours. Perikatan Nasional on Sunday launched the coalition's manifesto for the Melaka state election, titled Melaka Bangkit Gemilang, based on 6 cores, 11 strategies, and 74 measures. The coalition's 6 cores involve boosting the economy, the people's welfare, strengthening the tourism industry, environment sustainability, infrastructure efficiency, as well as strong and transparent governance. Its chairman, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, in announcing the manifesto, promised to allocate financial aid for the maintenance of Tahfiz schools registered with the Melaka Islamic Religious Department, as well as a 200 ringgit one-off aid payment for teachers in registered Tahfiz schools and kindergartens. The coalition will also seek to improve the level of education in Melaka and make the state among the top 3 in Malaysia for major public examination results. One-off aid of 200 ringgit will also be channeled to parents of babies born this year. To address the heavy traffic in the city, especially during peak seasons, Tan Sri Muhyiddin said PN would provide more parking spaces and introduce park and ride facilities to reduce the number of cars on the road.
Bagi memastikan tawaran ikrar Perikatan Nasional untuk Melaka ini dipenuhi, kita berjanji bahawa sebuah jawatan kuasa khas pemantau pelaksanaan akan ditubuhkan dan dianggoti oleh anak-anak jati Melaka sendiri daripada golongan profesional dan juga yang berpengalaman, dan ini adalah manifestasi kesungguhan Perikatan Nasional untuk memastikan ikrar yang dibuat untuk rakyat di negeri Melaka hari ini akan direalisasikan melalui satu daya usaha yang gigih dan telus.
Tan Sri Muhyiddin also said he believed that the people would have been disappointed to hear about the reports of abuse of power and the misappropriation of Malacca's wealth by greedy and irresponsible parties. He told Malaccans that this was their chance to rectify the situation, urging them to be bold in initiating change in the state. However, unlike Barisan Nasional and Pakatan Harapan's manifestos, PN did not pledge to allocate equal funding for all assemblymen, regardless of the political party, and there was also no mention of PN's chief minister candidate. The Kedah government today tabled the state 2022 budget themed Kedah Sejahtera Nikmat Untuk Semua, amounting to 1.35 billion ringgit, with a projected deficit of 12.44% or about 90 million ringgit. Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Muhammad Sanusi Mat Noor said the budget allocates over 815 million ringgit as operating expenditure, with 103 million to be allocated as contribution to the development fund. As for development expenditure, he said the state government proposed to allocate 218.31 million ringgit for the development fund, which is a significant increase of 17.41 million. Datuk Seri Muhammad Sanusi said this is to ensure balanced development throughout the state and that all projects affected by the COVID-19 pandemic could be completed. In addition, 8.96 million ringgit would be allocated for the Forest Development Fund, an increase of 10.6% compared to this year, as an effort to restore and conserve biodiversity resources. Under the budget, Kedah civil servants will also each receive 1,000 ringgit special financial assistance. As he said, the state government sees the civil servants continue to execute their duties and responsibilities despite being in a limited situation due to the implementation of various movement control orders during the pandemic.
Buat kali pertama, kerajaan menyediakan peruntukan khas kepada Yang Berhormat Speaker sebanyak RM50,000 bagi memperkasakan fungsi Speaker. Peruntukan sebanyak RM50,000 disediakan kepada setiap DUN bagi melaksanakan pembaikan kecil di bawah program Desa Sejahtera. Melalui peruntukan ini, Yang Berhormat ADUN boleh membantu golongan miskin seperti menggantikan atap rumah yang bocor, membaiki kerosakan bilik atau dapur, atau menggantikan peralatan yang rosak.
50,000 ringgit will also be allocated annually to all opposition assemblymen to help those in need and for small-scale programs in their respective constituencies. In the meantime, he said Kedah is expected to collect 725 million ringgit in revenue next year, with tax revenue being the largest contributor of 335.91 million ringgit or 46.33%. This is followed by non-tax revenue of 224.56 million ringgit or 30.97% and 164.53 million ringgit or 22.69% from non-revenue receipts. As of November 11th, Kedah received 631.68 million ringgit in revenue, or 87.73% of the 720 million ringgit target, which is an improvement from last year's revenue of 560.66 million ringgit. Meanwhile, the Kedah state government will neither issue new licenses nor renew existing licenses for gambling businesses, including all 4D lottery shops in the state starting immediately. Datuk Seri Muhammad Sanusi said the state government will also restrict the sale of alcohol in public and will only allow alcohol to be sold to non-Muslim consumers. The Kedah Menteri Besar said the decision was made at the State Executive Council meeting last week to make Kedah a gambling-free state. He said the local government is aware that gambling is the cause of the collapse of family institutions and the nation's civilization, and said that many who are involved in gambling will be crippled by debt, which causes disharmony in the family and chaos in the community.
Manfaat kepada premis judi ni tak ramai pun toke tu dia untung. Tapi mudarat dia kepada ramai orang.
He explained that although the government is not closing down existing gambling premises, it would not renew gambling licenses, and this would result in the operators not being able to run their businesses once their licenses expire. As for the sale of alcohol in Kedah, Datuk Sri Muhammad Sanusi said he would leave it to the local authorities to carry out the implementation by ensuring only non-Muslim consumers could buy alcoholic beverages. This would be implemented on the duty-free island of Langkawi as well as in rural areas on the mainland. The selection of rescue contractors to complete sick projects that are late or fail to be completed on schedule is done through a strict vetting process by the Works Ministry. Senior Works Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof said this was to ensure that only contractors with a good track record were selected to complete these projects.
Sebab kalau projek ini dibatalkan, ianya akan mengambil masa. Kalau mengikut prosedur biasa, untuk kita tender dan sebagainya, ia akan mengambil masa yang agak panjang. Dan kadang-kadang kita terpaksa mengolah, orang macam mengolah balik lukisan, drawing, new drawing sebab masalah kontraktor dulu tidak menyerahkan all the drawings and so on. Especially the design and build. Dia terpaksa mengambil konsultan yang baru dan sebagainya. Because of that complexity, the best is going by way of contractor penyelamat. Jadi kita tak payah menyaring lagi syarikat-syarikat, maka ditender di kalangan kontraktor penyelamat ini saja.
He stressed that among aspects included in the vetting process are financial strength, experience and technical capabilities, as well as the assets of the company. The senior minister also explained that currently the hiring of rescue contractors is implemented through an open application. On Saturday, Datuk Sri Fadilah said a total of 15 infrastructure projects under the Works Ministry in Sabah and Sarawak have been classified as sick projects with delayed or failure to complete construction. He said new contractors to complete construction have been or will be appointed by his ministry to finish all affected projects. Wisdom and leadership, as well as dynamic and energetic management, are needed post-COVID-19 in planning recovery strategies that can create a meaningful impact on the people, especially in efforts to eradicate poverty. Sultan of Perak, Sultan Nazrin Muizzuddin Shah, said the wisdom of past leaders who formulated poverty eradication programs during the post-independence era and when the new economic policy NEP was introduced should be emulated and used as a reference and guide.
Pasca COVID-19 memerlukan pimpinan dan pengurusan yang dinamik lagi bertenaga, pimpinan dan pengurusan yang memiliki stamina, kekuatan, kesungguhan dan tumpuan merencanakan pendekatan pemulihan yang dapat memberi impak bermakna kepada rakyat, terutama usaha membasmi kemiskinan.
Sultan Nazrin said that education was the most successful NEP program, fulfilling the aspirations of poverty eradication and the restructuring of society, adding that the majority who managed to escape the shackles of poverty and the increase in middle-class groups, especially among the Malay community, were achieved through educational programs. He added the COVID-19 pandemic has sent alarm bells ringing and alerted international bodies globally and nationwide on the weaknesses and deficiencies caused by apathy and fundamental mistakes committed during times of plenty when the world and the nation were comfortable and crisis-free. The ruler said the country should be prepared and be brave to conduct audits to assess the strengths and weaknesses of its hardware and software assets, as well as its human capital in terms of quantity, quality of expertise, experience and skill sets, and more importantly, to take immediate steps to improve so the nation is better prepared to face future crises. Sultan Nazrin said this at the investiture ceremony for state awards and medals held in conjunction with his 65th birthday celebration at Istana Iskandaria, Kuala Kangsar on Sunday, which was also attended by Raja Permaisuri Perak, Tuanku Zara Salim. At the ceremony, Sultan Nazrin presented awards and medals to 38 of the 339 recipients, while the second session of the ceremony for the remaining recipients will be held on a date to be approved by His Highness, subject to the COVID-19 situation at that time. Perak Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Sarani Muhammad, who leads the list of 339 recipients, was conferred the Darjah Datuk Sri Paduka Mahkota Perak Award, which carries the title Datuk Sri. Of the 339 recipients, 147 are recipients for the 2020 investiture ceremony, while 192 are this year's recipients, as the ceremony was organized simultaneously owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. Two drug smuggling syndicates crippled in Johor. The details and more from the local front when we return. Welcome back. Childhood obesity has always been a worrisome issue in Malaysia, even before COVID-19 hit the country. With lockdowns implemented across the country due to the deadly virus, the diet, sleeping patterns, and physical activity among children with obesity have taken a monumental toll. Many quarters have pointed out that action is needed to ensure their health and safety both now and in the long term. Hakim Azman reports.
Malaysian Adult and Childhood Obesity Prevention Organisation Chairman Kevin Zahri said children obesity in Malaysia has increased over the years, and now the country has one of the highest obesity rates in Asia. According to the National Health and Morbidity Survey in 2019, childhood obesity has increased up to 14.8% compared to 6.1% in 2011. The number is very alarming, according to Kevin, and might be increasing especially during the pandemic as it has negatively impacted children's lifestyle. He added that parents can tackle childhood obesity by fostering environmental change in their homes.
Take ownership of the family that you are anchoring. Every family's dynamic is unique. Every child is unique as well. What children need is support, encouragement, consistency, and push. Yeah, a push factor as well to push them in the right direction. Give them time to adapt to the new normalcy coming out of the pandemic as well. Bring children into your circle of sports or even home workouts, yeah, to be active or to reactivate children as well.
Kevin also advised parents to encourage their children rather than force them, as it could further compound children's stress, which then leads them to be sedentary. Meanwhile, Malaysian Dietitian Association Vice President Associate Professor Dr. Hazrin Abdul Majid said providing healthy meals and snacks, daily physical activities, and nutritional education is a must in combating childhood obesity.
So for children who are below 10 years old, so basically the amount of food, for example, protein, should come from your milk, as well as the lean meat or chicken should come in your meal planning as well, because you shouldn't just be focusing on food that is based on carbohydrate only, which is rice or maybe bread. So you should have a mix.
Professor Dr. Hazrin added that parents have to restrict their children from having unhealthy snacks, as it would only give empty calories, which can lead to weight gain and nutritional deficiencies. He added that if this issue is not addressed, children are going to develop non-communicable diseases such as cardiovascular diseases, cancers, chronic respiratory diseases, and diabetes. COVID-19 is not an excuse for us to normalize a sedentary lifestyle for our children. Parents need to ensure their kids stay physically active and have a balanced diet during this pandemic to avoid obesity so that they can grow up healthy. Hakim Azman for Nightline TV3.
In Johor, police crippled 2 drug trafficking and smuggling syndicates following 3 raids in Kota Tinggi and Johor Bahru last week. State Police Chief Dato' Ayub Khan Maidin Piche said the modus operandi of these syndicates is to smuggle the drugs to a neighbouring country by sea and by renting gated and guarded apartments to pack the drugs for use at private parties and entertainment outlets.
Jumlah rampasan dan sitaan untuk kedua-dua operasi adalah 1.3 juta, tuan. Dadah yang dirampas ini dalam kedua operasi ini boleh digunakan oleh seramai 85,830 orang penagih, tuan.
Police seized 21 kilograms of ecstasy powder, 78.6 grams of ketamine, 1.8 grams of shabu, 90 ecstasy pills, and 170 Aramin 5 pills. 5 suspects, including an Indonesian, were arrested in the raids and are believed to be the masterminds of the syndicates. One of them was also found to have previous records of criminal offences. The suspects have been remanded for 7 days from November 11th to the 17th for further investigations. The case is being investigated under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act. Police have arrested a man who allegedly offered a 200,000 ringgit bribe to policemen to release 5 members of a syndicate detained for being involved in online scams. Negeri Sembilan Police Chief Datuk Muhammad Mat Yusof said the suspect in his 30s was detained at a petrol station in Bandar Baru Nilai at 1:40 a.m. on Sunday.
Tangkapan satu lelaki Melayu yang menawarkan RM200,000 kepada pihak polis ataupun pihak pegawai yang buat tangkapan. Kita akan ambil tindakan ataupun kita akan serahkan kepada SPRM untuk siasatan lanjut.
Police had earlier raided an apartment Saturday night and arrested 3 men and 2 women, all aged between 21 and 24, for allegedly being involved in an investment scam. Also seized were 15 mobile phones, 2 laptops, and more than 2,000 ringgit in cash from the suspects. Preliminary investigations revealed that the syndicate had been scamming people over a non-existent investment scheme on Facebook. 11 cases related to the syndicate are believed to have been solved after the arrests. The 5 suspects are being investigated under Section 420 of the Penal Code for cheating and face a jail term of up to 10 years, a fine, or both upon conviction. Still to come on Nightline. Scores killed in latest prison riot in Ecuador. Stay tuned. Onto the foreign front. A deal aimed at staving off dangerous climate change has been struck at the COP26 summit in Glasgow, despite several members failing to agree on a call to phase out coal use. The change prompted disappointment and even anger among many nations, who believe an emphatic call to end reliance on fossil fuels was necessary to put the world on a path to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, the largest was said at the Paris Climate Summit in 2015. Speaking at a media conference, COP26 President Alok Sharma described the talks as a fragile win, adding the pulse is weak in the effort to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius target alive.
This is a fragile win, and we have kept 1.5 alive. That was our overarching objective when we set off on this journey 2 years ago, taking on the role of the COP presidency designate. But I would still say that the pulse of 1.5 is weak. And that's why, whilst we have reached, I do believe, a historic agreement, what this will be judged on is not just the fact that countries have signed up, but it will be judged on whether they meet and deliver on the commitment.
It is understood that signatories agreed to phase down rather than phase out the use of coal and fossil fuels and to cut subsidies for the industry, except for India and China, who insisted on a watering down of a commitment to phase out coal and fossil fuels. As part of the agreement, rich countries have also agreed to increase their commitments on climate finance, doubling the money they will pay to poorer countries to adapt to climate change and decarbonize their economies by 2025. Over in Ecuador, a prolonged gun battle between rival gangs at Penitenciaria del Litoral prison in the southern city of Guayaquil killed at least 68 inmates and wounded 25 on Saturday. The riot began around 7 p.m. local time on Friday when prisoners tried to enter Block 2 of the jail, where their rivals were held, firing gunshots, detonating explosives and swinging machetes, and prompting police to move in. A second outbreak of fighting then broke out Saturday after inmates from 2 other blocks attacked each other before the police managed to control the situation. It is understood that the latest disturbance was set off by a power vacuum following a gang leader's release. The bloodshed came less than 2 months after fighting among gangs killed 119 people at the same prison, which houses more than 8,000 inmates. Action from the Malaysian Cup quarterfinals. Sports coming up next. Sports, football, the Malaysian Cup. 4 quarter-final matches were played on Sunday night. Melaka United edged Sabah 1-0. Kedah held Johor Darul Takzim to a goalless draw. Kuala Lumpur City FC beat Selangor FC 2-0, while Terengganu beat Sarawak United 2-1. In Kuala Terengganu, Faisal Halim opened the scoring in the 17th minute with a fine shot outside of the box to make it 1-0, before Sarawak United levelled the matches 5 minutes later thanks to an own goal from Shahrul Nizam. However, it was the hosts who had the last laugh in the second half when Faiz Nasir restored the lead in the 51st minute, sealing the 2-1 win. Both teams will then play again in the second leg of the quarterfinals on Thursday as they seek a place in the semi-finals. And that's it for Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, we leave you with stunning visuals from the Umbra Light Festival in Spain that turned the city of Vitoria-Gasteiz into a living and ephemeral open-air museum. I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for tuning in and have a productive week ahead.